Each morning, millions of people reach for a cup of coffee, not just for energy, but for something quieter, a sense of rhythm, control, comfort. But what if that same cup paired with the wrong foods could be the reason your body breaks down? At my age, and perhaps yours too, health is no longer about adding more. It is about subtracting what silently harms. Coffee is not our enemy, but combine it with the wrong companion, and it becomes the spark that lights the fuse. Many people over 65 still hold to habits formed decades ago. A quick breakfast, coffee with cream and sugar, maybe something salty or sweet on the side. It feels familiar, safe, comforting. Yet the aging body doesn't process those comforts the way it once did. Your blood vessels are thinner, your digestion is slower, your immune system more reactive, and your heart, though still strong, no longer thrives under pressure. Recent studies show that certain food combinations with coffee can trigger dangerous outcomes in older adults, ranging from heart arrhythmias to spikes in blood pressure, allergic reactions, and even life-threatening strokes. And most people have no idea they're at risk. This is not about fear. This is about awareness. Because once you see clearly, you can choose differently. Let us begin together with the first food to avoid, a common delight many of us once called breakfast. First, let us look at a familiar comfort, one that many have grown up with and still hold dear: bacon and fried foods. There is a certain joy in the sizzle of bacon in a morning pan. A crisp slice, golden and warm, paired with fried eggs or potatoes. It's a scene many of us grew up with. It feels like tradition, a reward, the comforting start of another day. For decades, this kind of breakfast felt harmless. But with age, what once energized us now tests the body in ways it cannot easily endure. At 65 and beyond, the body changes. It becomes less forgiving, more sensitive to pressure, salt, fat, and stimulants like caffeine. The morning ritual, though familiar, may be doing more harm than we realize. Let me explain why. Coffee, by nature, is a stimulant. It increases your heart rate, narrows your blood vessels, and stimulates the nervous system. When you pair this with foods rich in saturated fat and sodium, such as bacon, sausage, or deep-fried hash browns, you create a condition where multiple forces collide inside your body. Here's what happens. Saturated fats raise your LDL cholesterol, the bad kind, making your blood thicker and slower to move through vessels. Sodium causes fluid retention, elevating your blood pressure as your heart strains to move a heavier volume of blood. Then, caffeine steps in, accelerating your heartbeat, tightening your blood vessels even more, and overstimulating your central nervous system. The result is not just a feeling of alertness, it's a state of vascular stress. And for someone with hypertension, arteriosclerosis, or a history of heart issues, this combination can trigger sudden blood pressure spikes, episodes of arrhythmia, increased risk of stroke or heart attack. A study published in the American Journal of Hypertension 2017 found that older adults who consumed high-sodium meals with caffeine had significantly higher systolic blood pressure readings within 45 minutes, especially those with pre-existing cardiovascular conditions. Another study from the Journal of the American Heart Association warned that combining caffeine with fatty, salty meals tripled the likelihood of vascular stiffness, a major contributor to heart attacks in elderly individuals. But here's the thing, we don't feel these changes immediately. They're silent, they build over time, until one morning the body speaks through dizziness, a skipped heartbeat, a sudden fainting spell, or something far worse, and people wonder, but why? I've had this breakfast for years. Because the body you had at 35 is not the body you live in now. The same meal, the same coffee, does not enter the same vessel. What was once resilience has now become a threshold. This isn't about fear, it's about wisdom. It's about noticing. So what should we do? You don't have to give up pleasure, but you do need to retrain your rituals. Here are a few alternatives I have embraced. Swap bacon for a soft-boiled egg or a slice of avocado. Both provide healthy fats without overstressing the heart. Replace fried potatoes with steamed or roasted vegetables. Gentler on digestion, richer in fiber. Allow your coffee to be enjoyed on its own or with something light and hydrating like warm water with lemon or a piece of fruit. If you still want something savory, try oatmeal with flaxseed or a slice of whole grain toast with almond butter. These don't trigger inflammation or cause rapid spikes in blood pressure, and they allow coffee to do its job without turning against you. Because in truth, coffee is not the enemy. Coffee is a teacher. It shows us how the body responds to heat, speed, stimulation. And if we listen closely, it tells us when we are ready and when we need to slow down. Our breakfasts can still bring joy, but they must also bring balance. So the next time you hear the bacon sizzle, pause. Ask yourself, is this food serving the body I have now or the memory of the body I once had? Wisdom is not in removing everything. Wisdom is knowing what no longer belongs. And as we walk forward, let each choice, especially the small ones, be a gesture of self-respect. Now, let us turn to something far more subtle and far more dangerous. Seafood and coffee, a combination that in the wrong moment could shut the body down completely. Second, we move from the frying pan to the sea, toward a combination that for some can be quietly fatal: seafood and iced coffee. I once sat across from an elderly gentleman at a quiet temple cafe. He had a gentle face, weathered hands, and a soft way of speaking. He told me about his morning ritual: fresh shrimp salad, a glass of iced coffee with condensed milk, and silence. "It helps me feel alive," he said. But one morning, not long after, he collapsed before finishing his drink. Not from age, not from heart disease, but from a severe allergic reaction. Anaphylaxis, triggered by the combination of seafood and caffeine. That incident stays with me. We often believe allergies are something obvious. We imagine swollen lips, itchy rashes, or immediate distress. But in truth, the most dangerous reactions are often the quietest at first, especially in older adults whose immune systems are more fragile and less predictable. Let's explore what happens inside the body. Seafood, especially shellfish, is one of the most common allergens in adults. Many people don't even realize they have a mild allergy until the right storm brews. Caffeine, as found in coffee, especially iced coffee with condensed milk, which adds sugar and dairy, can intensify immune responses. It stimulates the release of histamines, the chemical messengers responsible for allergic symptoms. So what happens when you consume both seafood and caffeine together? If you already have a mild undiagnosed shellfish allergy, the caffeine can accelerate the allergic cascade. Your body may release histamine too quickly, overwhelming your system. In severe cases, this leads to anaphylactic shock, or shortness of breath, or swelling of the throat, or drop in blood pressure, or loss of consciousness, and if untreated, death within minutes. This isn't speculation. A 2013 study published in Allergy, Asthma, and Clinical Immunology found that caffeine significantly heightened allergic responses in sensitized individuals, especially when paired with common allergens like shellfish and peanuts. The danger becomes worse with iced coffee, particularly when it includes condensed milk. The cold temperature causes blood vessels to constrict, which worsens breathing and circulation during an allergic event. Condensed milk, high in sugar, spikes insulin and cortisol, adding to immune dysregulation. For seniors whose digestion and circulation are already slower, this combination can tip the body into shock far faster than in younger adults. And yet, it all seems so innocent. A seafood dish, a refreshing iced coffee, the kind you'd enjoy on a warm afternoon with soft music in the background. But sometimes the most dangerous moments come not with warning, but with familiarity. You might ask, but I've eaten seafood for years. I've never had a problem before. Yes, but aging changes the rules. Over time, gut permeability increases, meaning undigested proteins from seafood can more easily leak into the bloodstream, where they trigger immune responses. At the same time, immune tolerance decreases, especially in those with chronic inflammation, gut issues, or autoimmune conditions. So even if you tolerated shellfish for decades, a hidden sensitivity may now rise, and caffeine becomes the match that lights the fuse. What can we do? First, recognize the risk. If you've ever experienced even mild symptoms after eating seafood, itchiness, tight throat, flushing, get tested for shellfish allergy. Avoid pairing coffee with seafood entirely. Give your body space to process each separately and with respect. Be especially cautious with iced or sweetened coffee, which adds metabolic stress. If you truly enjoy seafood, eat it as a standalone meal during the day, not alongside stimulants or alcohol. Pair it with calming, anti-inflammatory foods like steamed vegetables or rice. And after such a meal, allow time. Breathe. Hydrate. Let the body integrate, not react. As for coffee, enjoy it in the morning, separate from complex meals, especially those rich in protein or allergens. Let it serve as a gentle start, not a risky combination. In our culture, we often chase variety, flavor, excitement on the plate, but aging invites a different wisdom. The simpler the meal, the clearer the body's voice. That gentleman I mentioned earlier recovered thanks to the quick action of someone nearby. But he never forgot that moment. Now he drinks his coffee warm, alone. And he listens to his body the way monks listen to the wind. Not to react, but to receive. Let your meals be slow. Let your combinations be thoughtful. Because it's not just about what we eat, but what the body can safely hold at this stage of life. Next, we explore another silent trap. This time not from the sea, but from the bakery, sweet pastries and strong coffee, when sugar meets stimulation and the heart cannot keep up. Third, we turn to sweetness, those pastries and baked goods that seem innocent, even joyful when paired with coffee. But for the aging heart, this union can bring chaos. There is a kind of quiet comfort in the sweetness of a morning pastry. Perhaps it reminds us of our childhood, the smell of warm cinnamon rolls, the soft crumble of a muffin, or the buttery layers of a croissant. Add a strong dark cup of coffee, and for a moment it feels like the world softens. A ritual, a pleasure, a reward. But for an aging body, this combination of sugar and caffeine can turn into a silent assault. At first glance, it seems harmless, a pastry and a cup of strong coffee. But let us look more deeply, beyond taste, beyond memory, into the body itself. What happens inside you when sugar meets stimulation? When you consume a pastry, your blood sugar begins to rise, especially with refined carbohydrates like white flour and processed sugars. These foods digest quickly, causing a rapid spike in glucose. For older adults, particularly those with insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes, this response is sharper, faster, and more dangerous. Now add strong coffee. Caffeine stimulates the release of adrenaline and increases cortisol, your body's primary stress hormone. It enhances the liver's glucose output, raising blood sugar even further, on top of what the pastry has already done. At the same time, caffeine raises your heart rate, narrows blood vessels, and places additional strain on the cardiovascular system. This is not just a gentle awakening, it's a physiological storm. Blood sugar spikes, heart rate accelerates, insulin struggles to respond. The body enters a stress state it may not have the reserves to exit gracefully. A study published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society 2018 found that older adults who consumed high glycemic foods with caffeine experienced greater blood pressure variability and increased incidence of cardiac arrhythmias, especially those with existing heart conditions. Another study in Diabetes Care 2004 revealed that caffeine impaired glucose metabolism in individuals with type 2 diabetes, causing higher post-meal glucose levels and insulin resistance. But these are not just numbers, they are lived realities. I once met a woman in her 70s who loved her morning ritual, a sticky bun and a double espresso. She would sit by the window, savoring the silence. One day, after finishing her treat, she felt her heart race uncontrollably. Her hands trembled, her vision blurred. She had experienced a condition known as tachyarrhythmia, a rapid, irregular heartbeat triggered by sugar and caffeine overload. Thankfully, she recovered, but the memory changed her. Now I sip my coffee more slowly, she told me, and I've learned that sweetness does not need to come from sugar. Let's be clear, sugar itself is not poison. Coffee itself is not harmful. But in combination and in excess, especially in a vulnerable body, they can overwhelm your system. So, what can we do? 1. Choose stability over spike. Replace pastries made with white flour and refined sugar with whole grain toast, chia pudding, or a small bowl of oats with cinnamon. These provide steady energy without sharp glucose rises. 2. Time your coffee wisely. Drink coffee after eating, not alongside high sugar foods. This reduces the additive stress on your blood sugar and heart rate. 3. Reduce portion size. If you still enjoy a treat, make it smaller and pair it with protein or fiber to slow absorption. 4. Savor the ritual, not the rush. Ritual is sacred. It brings meaning, but the body is sacred too. Let your rituals evolve to match the wisdom of your years. If sweetness is what you seek, there are deeper forms of it than sugar. The sweetness of breath in stillness, the sweetness of a morning sunbeam, the sweetness of knowing your heart is calm, not strained. In traditional medicine, the heart is more than a pump, it is the seat of spirit, and anything that agitates it unnecessarily is not worth the fleeting comfort. So the next time you sit with a sweet and a coffee, pause. Ask your body, not your habit, is this what I truly need? Because pleasure that brings pain is no longer pleasure. At this stage of life, we must choose what nourishes, not what numbs. And now we turn to something that hides behind aged flavor and tradition. Fermented foods rich in tyramine, like old cheeses and dried meats. For those taking medication for depression or Parkinson's, this next combination with coffee may be not just dangerous, but deadly. Fourth, we explore the foods of tradition, aged cheese, cured meats, and how they collide with modern medication, especially when paired with coffee. I've always appreciated the quiet strength of tradition. There is something timeless in the smell of aged cheese, the bold saltiness of cured meats, the way flavors deepen over time. For many, these foods symbolize culture, memory, even identity. But when we grow older, and especially when we begin relying on medications to support our mind or motor function, some traditions must be re-examined, not out of fear, but out of respect for the delicate balance within. This is particularly true when these aged foods meet something as common and powerful as coffee. Let me explain. Aged cheeses and cured meats like cheddar, blue cheese, salami, pepperoni, or dry sausage contain high levels of a compound called tyramine. Tyramine is a natural byproduct of protein breakdown during aging and fermentation. For most people, tyramine is broken down safely by an enzyme called monoamine oxidase, MAO. But for those who take MAO inhibitors, MAOIs, a class of medications used to treat depression, Parkinson's disease, and some neurological disorders, the body loses the ability to neutralize tyramine effectively. Now add coffee to this already sensitive equation. Coffee contains caffeine, which is a stimulant that increases blood pressure and heart rate on its own. But when caffeine enters a system already struggling to process tyramine, a known blood pressure elevating agent, the result can be a dangerous surge in hypertension. This is not a slow rise. It can be a rapid, life-threatening spike in blood pressure known as a hypertensive crisis. Symptoms may include severe headache, chest pain, blurred vision, shortness of breath, risk of stroke or cardiac arrest. One clinical review in the Journal of Clinical Psychopharmacology 2016 confirmed that patients on MAOIs who consumed tyramine-rich foods showed acute and sometimes fatal hypertensive responses, particularly when these foods were paired with caffeine or alcohol. What makes this risk more dangerous is that it often goes unnoticed. Many older adults take MAOIs without realizing their dietary implications. They may not remember being told to avoid tyramine-rich foods, or they may assume the restriction no longer applies. After all, how dangerous can a slice of cheese or a piece of sausage be? But medications do not forget even when we do. And coffee, which feels so familiar, so innocent, can act like fuel to a fire already kindling inside the bloodstream. I once met a retired teacher who shared this exact experience. She was on an MAOI to help with long-standing depression. She ate a modest lunch, salami sandwich, aged cheddar, and a cup of strong black coffee. 30 minutes later, her vision blurred. Her head pounded. Her blood pressure had surged to 220, 120. She was rushed to the hospital with early signs of stroke. She survived, but her relationship with food and with coffee was never the same. I thought I was doing everything right, she told me, but I didn't realize that food could fight against the medicine trying to help me. That insight stayed with me, and it's one we must all take seriously. So what can be done? If you or someone you care for is on MAOIs, remember this. 1. Avoid tyramine-rich foods. These include aged cheeses, cured meats, fermented soy products, like miso and soy sauce, sauerkraut, and some wines or beers. 2. Limit caffeine. You don't need to eliminate coffee entirely, but keep it mild, well-spaced from meals, and never paired with risky foods. 3. Read medication labels carefully. If the drug is labeled as an MAOI, assume dietary restrictions apply unless your doctor specifically tells you otherwise. 4. Communicate clearly. If you live with others, make sure they know which foods are safe and which are not. Accidents often happen out of love and habit. But beyond all technical advice, there is a deeper principle here. Medication is only one half of healing. The other half is how we live alongside it. We must learn to live in cooperation with our treatments, not in conflict. Coffee is not the enemy, neither is cheese, neither is tradition. But everything must be placed in its rightful time, space, and context. As we age, timing becomes wisdom. What once brought strength may now bring stress, and what once felt harmless may now hold risk. Still, this is not a loss. It is an invitation to live with greater clarity, to eat with greater care, and to respect the fragile harmony within. So let tradition evolve. Let the new ritual be one of listening. And let us remember, health is not the absence of pleasure. It is the presence of awareness. As we move forward, we encounter another hidden danger. This time, not from what we eat, but how we drink it. Cold coffee, empty stomachs, and the frailty of the digestive fire in old age. 5th, we look not just at what we drink, but how and when we drink it. Cold coffee on an empty stomach may feel energizing, but it can be a shock to a body already in need of gentleness. I have always believed that the first thing we place into our bodies each morning is a message, a signal to our system about how the day will unfold. For many, that first thing is coffee. And not just coffee, but iced coffee, often strong, often sweetened, often taken in a rush before the stomach has received anything else. It may feel refreshing, stimulating, like a wake-up call to the brain and body. But beneath that surface, for an aging system, this habit can be profoundly destabilizing. Let's begin with a simple truth. The digestive system wakes up slowly. It is like a flame that must be kindled gently. In youth, this flame burns strong. It can handle cold, speed, intensity, but as we grow older, that fire becomes more sensitive, more fragile, and more easily extinguished. When you consume cold coffee on an empty stomach, several things happen. 1. The cold temperature triggers vasoconstriction. Your blood vessels tighten to preserve core temperature. For older adults, especially those with low blood pressure, this can cause dizziness, lightheadedness, and even fainting. 2. The caffeine stimulates the release of stomach acid, hydrochloric acid, without any food to buffer it. This can lead to O irritation of the stomach lining, O gastritis, O acid reflux, O in severe cases, gastric bleeding or ulcer flare-ups. 3. If you already have a history of ulcers, GERD, or irritable stomach, cold coffee on an empty belly is not just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. One hospital study in the American Journal of Gastroenterology 2015 found that among adults over 65 admitted for upper GI bleeding, nearly 40% reported consuming coffee, often cold and without food, within 2 hours of symptom onset. Another clinical study from Japan, 2018, observed that cold beverages, especially coffee taken before food, disrupted gastric motility and caused irregular heartbeat episodes in seniors with pre-existing heart or digestive conditions. So why do people still do it? Because it feels good for a moment, because we confuse stimulation with energy, because we assume that what doesn't hurt right away is harmless. But the body speaks in whispers before it screams. I remember a man in his late 60s who told me, "I skip breakfast, just coffee, cold, sweet, and fast." He said it helped him feel sharp, but then came the palpitations, the stomach pain, the fainting spell in the supermarket. It wasn't the caffeine alone, it was the cold, the emptiness, and the timing. And so we return to an ancient principle in Eastern medicine. Never awaken the dragon before you've laid the foundation. In other words, do not stimulate the system before it is ready. So what should we do? 1, break your fast gently. Start the day with warm water, herbal tea, or a light, neutral food like a banana, rice porridge, or plain toast. This prepares the digestive tract and stabilizes blood sugar. 2, wait at least 20-30 minutes before having coffee. Allow your stomach to receive something soft and supportive first. Let the fire awaken on its own. 3, if you drink coffee, prefer it warm or room temperature. Cold beverages shock the system, warmth harmonizes it. At this age, harmony matters more than stimulation. 4, listen to how your body reacts, not just your mind. Do you feel calm after coffee, or wired, lightheaded, or acidic? These are messages, not nuisances. The truth is, iced coffee is not inherently evil. Caffeine is not toxic, but in the wrong moment, with the wrong vessel, they become stress, not support. Our goal is not to remove all pleasure, but to remove the unconsciousness behind the habit. And this begins by remembering the body is no longer the one you had at 30. It has aged, softened, become more sensitive, but also more honest. And when we listen to it with respect, it will guide us toward what it needs. So perhaps tomorrow, before you reach for that cold cup, ask yourself, have I warmed the fire within? And if the answer is no, pause. Offer your body something kind first. Let coffee come after awareness, not before it. Because how you begin your day is how your heart remembers it. Over these past moments, we've journeyed together through the hidden layers of something as simple as coffee and the foods we too easily pair with it. We've seen how a slice of bacon, a bite of pastry, a sip of iced coffee on an empty stomach can shift from comfort to crisis, especially in the body of someone walking through their later years. But this is not a warning wrapped in fear. This is an invitation into awareness. Because aging is not weakness, it is refinement, a distillation of experience, sensitivity, and wisdom. At this stage of life, we are no longer building the body, we are learning to listen to it. And it speaks in rhythms. It speaks through digestion, blood pressure, energy, breath. And sometimes it speaks through discomfort, urging us to change course. Coffee is not the enemy. Food is not the problem. It is the lack of awareness that creates the imbalance. Each cup, each bite is a chance to say, I honor the life that still moves through me. So tomorrow morning, as you hold your cup of coffee, let it be more than habit. Let it be presence. Let it be a moment where you ask, is this serving the body I have today? Is this what peace tastes like? Because in the end, longevity is not just about avoiding illness. It's about living in harmony with what you eat, what you feel, and how you choose. And that harmony begins with the smallest of things: a breath, a sip, a quiet act of self-respect.